You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
On Friday night, Kiwi 800-metre runner James Preston became the second fastest Kiwi ever over the distance at the National Track and Field Champs in Wellington.
James Preston pulling away now. Sam Tanner struggling now. Luke Hitchcock, he's in third. Can he pick up Sam Tanner? James Preston rounding on to the home straight. Here he comes. He's won 3 of these national titles. He's going to get 4. The crowd rises to their feet. They cheer on the homeboy to finish an amazing time.
What a time.
James Preston has lit up the track in a new personal best. It looks like it's sub 145. Sam Tanner, all he can do is go over and give him a massive hug. James Preston in the middle of a southerly storm here at Newtown Park has just
in these
run
conditions,
an absolute blinder.
Yeah, a blinder indeed. James Preston defying wet and windy conditions to clock a time of 1 minute 44.87 seconds at the National Champs at Newtown Park, Wellington. It was his first effort ever under the 145 barrier and took him past Sir John Walker on the all-time list and to within just over half a second of Sir Peter Snell's long-standing national record of 144.3. James Preston is with us with a couple of days' hindsight. James, how do you reflect on that minute and 45 seconds of your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great result, something that we're really happy with, something we've been sort of striving for all season, but really surprised to run it in a race like that. Looking at the season, we've always been sort of searching for that perfect race where we get really good conditions, a good pacemaker and a strong field. Whereas in Wellington, we sort of got pretty average conditions, no pacemaker, and had to run it solo. So to do it there was a bit of a surprise, but I mean, we're hoping to run that quick before the end of the domestic season.
So in the absence of those things, a strong field, a pacemaker and perfect conditions, what led you to still be able to do it?
I think just the desire to win, prove a bit of a point. I guess I'm a really competitive guy, and I sort of feel like I've got to be in a good field to run quick. If I'm just time trialing by myself, then I'm not going to be running super quick. And I think to have Sam in that race really pushed me to want to win and to run fast. And the only way to what we thought to beat Sam, well, the most likely way for me to beat Sam was to try and take it around quick, to run the kick out of his legs, and I guess that's mutually beneficial with trying to run really fast. So, yeah.
You said there to prove a point. Do you reckon you had a point to prove?
Oh, I think so. I guess, I like proving points. I guess it's sort of nice. We're a New Zealand-based team. We don't do anything sort of out of this world. It's all sort of pretty simple, and I think to prove what my team's capable of and what my coach Evan can do. I think that's sort of more the point we're looking to prove.
The conditions, James. I live in Wellington, but I wasn't here on Friday night. However, I have seen some photographs of the rain that was coming down for starters. It's one of those typical Wellington nights. Surely you shouldn't be able to run that quick in those conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly a big fan of, really warm, like mid to high 30s in Europe and no wind. And I guess I've trained in Wellington for so many years, so you know what the wind's like, and it's really a unique wind at the Newtown Park. I think because of the topography around the track and the positioning of the grandstand, you can often get a tailwind at one part of the straight and the headwind at the other part of the straight. So I think having spent so many years training there, we did know what the wind would be like. But leading into the race, I was probably admittedly looking at the weather forecast a wee bit too much. I was seeing that there was going to be like 20 k's an hour at least throughout the day, and then a big peak of like 40 k's an hour at 7 o'clock, and that was making me a wee bit nervous because I knew to try and beat Sam, we wanted a pretty still conditions to run quick. But I think it changed from the northerly to the southerly right before our race, so you got like a little bit of a decrease in wind speed, but then the rain started to come down, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I guess being Wellington based for 26 years now, you sort of get a bit used to that.
Indeed. I think your split was it 50.5 through 400 metres? And is that typical for you, or is that quite quick for you?
It's yes and no to that answer. All of the season we've been requesting 50.5 to the pacemakers. I think the first race at Potts we requested that for Sam, and he's got the closest when he paced me. He was sort of like 50.7 to 51. Then over in Australia, we just sort of really struggle with pacemakers. I don't think it was any fault. It wasn't their own fault. I think it was just sort of a bit of an experience. But yeah, I think I sort of mentioned to some other people that the onus was on me to hit the splits now, and that's sort of what felt comfortable for me. Like, it didn't feel too quick, nor did it feel too slow. So yeah,
145. I don't know. It seems like a almost an iconic number for 800 metre runners to achieve, and some, I'm sure, try and never achieve it. Did you always feel like you had a sub 145 in you?
Yeah, I think athletics is a really tough sport in that because it's so measurable, you can go and look at certain trainings and certain sessions and say, based on, if I run a 600 metre at this pace, if I run, 400s at this pace, I might be able to run a 144. So I felt like looking at our training we've been doing, I think it was capable, but I guess nothing's exactly owed in the sport, nothing's guaranteed. There's so many things that go into trying to run a great result, and we've sort of seen that over the last couple of years that there's a bit more to it than just trying to run quick. And yeah, I guess we'd hoped to run that quick, and we felt that we could if everything aligned.
Your time, I see, is within 0.17 of a second outside the automatic Paris Olympics entry standard. What is your path, though, to the Olympics? You don't have to run that standard to qualify. Can you tell us what your pathway to Paris might be?
Yeah, so World Athletics changed the qualifying system for major championships a few years ago. So previously it was you ran, jumped, or through a certain standard. And they moved away from that in 2019, I believe it was, to like a split system where they want half the field qualified through a standard and then the other half qualified through a point system. And so with the point system, they essentially average 5 of your best results. And so you'll get points for the time-based portion of the result, and then you'll get points for the placing. So winning an Olympic gold will give you the most placing points, and that goes all the way down to sort of winning a club night at Newtown Park on a Saturday evening. So the goal certainly is to try and hit a standard, because that guarantees a spot, whereas the point system is less guaranteed.
So that's what, 144.7 you'd have to run before, the middle of the year or something like that?
Yeah, so before the end of June is for the time qualifier.
So you reckon you can do that? Have you got the races in your calendar to do that?
Yeah, so we've sort of been chatting back and forth with my coach, Evan, and my manager. We are going to spend a couple of down weeks, and then look to target some racing in probably Europe at this stage through May and June. Then we'll probably open up in Germany and do a couple of races there, and then see what else we can get into.
So if you look at the top 3 Kiwi male 800 metre times now, it goes Sir Peter Snell, James Preston, Sir John Walker. How does it feel to be in that company?
Oh, it's pretty special. I mean, I think particularly, speaking to people in my parents' generation, they all grew up around athletes like Sir Peter Snell and Sir John Walker. And I was lucky enough to meet Sir Peter Snell a couple of years ago. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I feel like those rankings are just a bonus. I want to be trying to perform well at championships and running qualifiers. So, yeah, sort of the cherry on top.
Is Sir Peter's national record in your sights 144.3?
Oh, yes and no. I don't really want to, call out national records or make it the be-all or end-all. I think if I want to achieve the goals that myself and my coach have sort of set, that will come with the process.
How fast do you reckon you can go over 800?
Oh, hard to say. I mean, everyone else would like to throw out times. I've heard people saying I can run 143 this season. I don't know. It just depends on the race. You get some of these European tracks that are people call them conveyor belt tracks, where, it's a 80,000 person stadium with no wind, and you get a pacemaker and you get the light rail. So that's the rail that lights up and shows you your pace. So with event like that, I think we could run really, really fast, but we'll see what opportunities I can get.
Well, the irony of Wellington, as you probably know, is that today it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous in Wellington today. Have you caught any of the other action over the weekend?
Yeah, so I've been there all weekend. It's been pretty cool to see a lot of the World Indoors team competing, and just generally just see some good athletics in Wellington.
Terrific stuff on Friday night, James. Congratulations on what you've achieved, and all the best for what could be a very, very exciting year for you, mate. Thanks for taking the time for a chat this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. James Preston, our top 800-metre runner, and now our second best ever, or second fastest ever, 1:44.87. Only Peter Snell has gone quicker, 1:44.3. I think, I was told the other day, that was at Lancaster Park in Christchurch. Someone will be able to confirm that's where Sir Peter Snell ran that. I know his mile record was in Whanganui, but I think the 800-metre was at Lancaster Park in Christchurch. Be that as it may, James Preston is now within Kiwi, isn't he? And he doesn't want to say it, and of course you don't. You don't want to. And again, often we talk on the show about outcomes as opposed to processes. James Preston seems to me to be a bloke who just concentrates on process, on just doing the right things day in, day out, and the outcomes look after themselves, as they did on Friday night, 1:44.87. If he keeps on with these processes, then I'm sure the outcome will look after itself. Could be a national record, a new one, could be Olympic qualification. A name to look out for, James Preston. Lee says, listening to James, he can and will do it. I kind of agree. He seems like he's got a real steely determination about him, that young man.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.